Hello, Lazy Bushcrafting fans. This is John. I'm going to give a little bit of a first look on these Oboz Sawtooth lows, the non-bead dry pattern, which is the one where it's open and has like the mesh top here. So the whole story about this is basically that I actually got a pair of Merrill's Moabs that were in their non-waterproof version as well to change on the Appalachian Trail, and you guys probably all know how that turned out. So I actually just wore them for the first time a couple weeks ago into the Catskills, and I found out that for whatever reason, their size is slightly different from the waterproof Moabs, which I'd had and I was comfortable with. So I brought them to the REI, and I talked to a great guy at the REI footwear area, and I was saying, well, is it possible for me to get a size lower? And they said, well, we don't have that in that size, but we also have these. We have these Oboz. And for those of you guys who don't know my history with Oboz, I really like Oboz. I really like the Oboz Bridger, I think was the name, because it has the insole already. And this was before I got into using Superfeet, which are also really great. And so like Oboz off the shelf were like the most comfortable hiking shoe that I've ever had because of just the fact they have that insole that's already built in there. So I took these around the REI, and for maybe took me 2 minutes to decide that it's nice enough to be able to make that exchange, since I hadn't really worn the Merrells for that long, for this. And it was only $10 more. So it was like $100 versus $110. And for those of you guys who don't know Oboz, I think they're a really good company. They're, in general, I think they're a little bit of a step up from Merrells, although there are some really great Merrells brands out there. Their claim to fame, like I said, is the insole, which is exactly the same as all the other insoles that I had in the Bridgers. It's really, really comfortable on the inside. This one is nicer because the big concern that I had with the Bridger was it was a little bit too heavy. But this is actually, I think, about the same weight as the Moab, so it's not really kind of that much of a difference. And it's also not waterproof. So my first impressions are basically that I really do like them. I think that fits my foot size pretty well. I think that also another nice claim to fame that Oboz has also is their tread patterns. So they have a very, very aggressive tread pattern. I think this is the case at least for all of their hiking shoes. You can see they have all these really, really tight, these really deep crenellations on the sides. For some reason, it almost kind of reminds me of like a snow tires kind of a thing. So they're very, very, very grippy. They're great yesterday, where it was super, super rainy, a lot of slippery rocks. And as I might see from one of the other videos, I kind of have some issues with my foot right now. So just knowing that my shoes weren't going to fail me was really helpful. I think that in terms of the breathability, it's sort of medium breathable. But also the positive of that is that even though it has this mesh, I don't think it wets through as quickly as maybe others like the Moabs might have. So because it seems a little bit less breathable, I think it's also maybe a little less easily sort of soakable. At least that's sort of my impression of it. I would also say that it's comfortable, gives you an appropriate amount of room in the toe box. Some little nitpicks are that it is not as secure in the heel area, at least for me, as I thought it would be. And this is something I found also with the other Oboz that I purchased, is this round type of shoelace for some reason comes apart pretty easily. When you're tying it, you kind of have to make sure that you tie the knot really tightly, because for some reason, whatever the shape or material is just doesn't seem to hold as much. But I really like Oboz. They're like a favorite brand of mine, even though I traded out for them. Now I traded back in for them. So I don't know that I'm going to give a rating. I kind of want to wait a little bit longer, but I was talking to Owen earlier, and he asked me to rate them. And I said, most of the time I'm not that picky about a lot of things. But for shoes, I get to Owen levels of pickiness where, only nothing but the best, Peter Luger's steak, as opposed to, I don't know, something slightly less that's also dry aged, is only what's going to touch my lips. If I'm going to say that is sort of like the spirit of the Owen grading scale. So for me, this would be at around maybe a 7 to 8, which is pretty high, because I've never found a shoe that probably got to a 9 or higher for me for hiking. So this is pretty good. Some small nitpicks. I was saying to Owen that if I had if this, to make this perfect, I would just fix the shoelace issue. I would make it a little bit more secure in the heel and like maybe 20 or 30% lighter, you know, because that would be really helpful too. So I'm gonna maybe I'll give an update eventually, just about how the wear is, what it looks like later, you know, how the tread wear is, that kind of thing. But this is a tried and true shoe. I don't know, couple years ago, we saw a guy who had thru hiked probably about 2/3 of the Appalachian Trail, and he was wearing a pair of Sawtooth lows that were really beat up, and he was probably going to get them replaced at that time. So like, if you want a really good hiking shoe, even though this is a first impression, I think this, you can't really beat Oboz, as long as it's a comfortable shoe for you and your foot size and shape and that kind of thing. I just think that it's a really good traditional shoe. I'll put it that way. I know people, if you want to get trail runners, I don't know that Oboz is going to be out there to help you. I think they have some new stuff now, but their claim to fame really are kind of traditional hiking shoes. So that's what I would say. If you're looking to kind of get into hiking, you want something that's going to be really good quality, it's going to have a really good amount of grip and last you and be very, very comfortable, Oboz is generally a pretty good brand, at least as I've seen it. So yeah, I'll catch you guys later, and I'm going to see how this works out.